So back in 2019, which feels like a lifetime ago, this is pre-pandemic, almost 6 years ago. I took a personal retreat to a place called Camp Lucan. And Camp Lucan's in Litchfield, which is in western Kentucky, and it's a United Methodist camp. And they have this really cool pastor's cottage they built. Someone gave them money for this particular purpose, and it's a cottage they built just for pastors and their families so that people like myself can go there and find some rest and renewal when I need it. And I discovered this. It's free. I get to go for one night a year for free, and I can go for multiple nights for a good price. And it's just a wonderful gift to go and to kind of get outside of Lexington and spend some time thinking and reflecting and connecting with God. And so I went there in 2019 by myself on a retreat on my own, just to kind of try to get centered again and get focused and connect with God. And what I did at the beginning of the retreat is I was trying to figure out what to do. I took a whole duffel bag full of books. Of course, I didn't really read any of them, but I took them, and I got there. I'm like, what am I going to read? And I decided to open up the Bible and begin by just reading through the scriptures. And as a pastor, I read the Bible a lot, but often it's to prepare for sermons, and sometimes it's hard to find the time and motivation to read it just for personal benefit and growth, but that's really, really important. And so I opened up to the Gospel of John, to the farewell discourse. And Christina talked about the farewell discourse last week, but these are kind of Jesus' parting words that he gives to his disciples, to his friends, before he was arrested and eventually taken to his execution on the cross. Jesus knew during this Last Supper that they were sharing together, he knew that things were about to get really difficult for his friends. He knew life was going to get really hard for them. And he needed to give them some guidance as they faced this uncertain and difficult road that was in front of them. I didn't know it at the time, but 2019 turned out to be a really hard year for me. And I needed some guidance as I faced an uncertain and difficult road ahead. As Christina mentioned last week, many of us feel like we are facing a very uncertain and difficult road ahead right now in 2024. And we also need some guidance. So I read through these chapters. It's 3 or 4 chapters in the Gospel of John. And I read through it numerous times. And often when I study the Bible, I was taught this in seminary, and it's helped me a lot, that it's important to pay attention to repetition when you read Scripture. And so if you read a section, pay attention to things that pop up a lot. Recurring themes, recurring words, recurring ideas. And so I started reading through it, trying to pay attention to the things that I was noticing in this kind of last teaching of Jesus before he was arrested. And in the farewell discourse, I began to notice some repetition in this guidance to his friends. And 3 messages began to emerge as I soaked myself in these chapters. And here were the messages I heard over and over and over again. Do not be afraid. Remain in Jesus and love. Over and over again, I heard Jesus saying to his friends, do not be afraid. Remain in me. And love. As life was about to get very hard for his friends, he gave them some important guidance for survival. Do not be afraid. Remain in Jesus. Love. After kind of discovering these messages, I went for a hike. And it was the dead of winter. It was cold. It was cloudy. I was feeling kind of sad and lonely. And as I walked, I repeated these words. Do not be afraid. Remain in Jesus, love. Do not be afraid. Remain in Jesus and love. And the words kind of flowed in and out, almost like my breath. And after walking for a few minutes and saying these words, I started to feel more connected to myself, more connected to what was around me, more connected to God. And I felt more whole. I felt more like me. And I think I was really feeling peace in that moment. Today, I want to focus on the second part of that kind of prayer, and that's the part that says, remain in Jesus. If you've heard the teaching Jesus taught where he said, I am the vine and you are the branches, He says, you can do nothing apart from me. He said, remain in me and my love, and that's how you're going to bear fruit. You know, since our Advent series, we built it upon the farewell discourse in John. Since we did that, Christina and Rachel and I have all been kind of reading through it again with fresh eyes. And we've noticed some things that feel important and significant. First, all the themes of Advent are in the farewell discourse. Hope and peace and joy and love, they are all there. And for these 3 remaining candles, the one we lit today, which represents peace, next week is joy, and the next week is love, all of these are mentioned very specifically by Jesus in these chapters. And this is the reason we're looking at these verses during Advent. Because as we wait for Jesus' second advent, his second coming, Jesus wants to give us peace and joy and love. Does anybody need more peace in your life, or more joy in your life, more love in your life? We are needing to receive those gifts from Jesus. So I want to share with you 3 verses in the farewell discourse that mention peace, joy, and love. I'll put them on the screen. John 14:27, Jesus says, peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. John 15:11, he says, I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. John 15:9, as the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Now remain in my love. And this brings me to kind of the second thing that I've noticed in these verses, in these chapters, is that Jesus gives us peace and joy and love, but he doesn't give them to us in the ways we would usually think of receiving a gift. I mean, Jesus specifically says, I do not give to you as the world gives. You know, when I give a gift to somebody, I typically go and buy it, then I wrap it up, and then I give it away to them. If I'm going to give them a gift card to a restaurant, I give them the gift card, go buy it, I give it to them, and then we're kind of done with all that. But that's not how Jesus gives. He doesn't give gifts to us from a distance. He's not just throwing some peace our way when we feel stressed out. No, these are qualities and things that Jesus enjoys and experiences in his own life. Jesus enjoys and experiences peace in his life. He enjoys and experiences joy. He enjoys and experiences love. And he possesses these blessings in his own life. He is peaceful. He is joyful. He is loving. And what he wants to do is share these blessings with us as we share life with him. I don't know if you noticed, I underlined them and put them in color. So maybe you noticed that it says, my peace, my joy, and my love. It's beautiful to me that Jesus doesn't just give us a gift from a distance, but says instead, come and share in my love. Come and share my joy. Come and share my peace. It's not really even a gift that he's giving us. It's an invitation to a deeper relationship with him, connection to him. And that is what will bring these beautiful things into our lives. And I think this is really significant because too often in my life, I have asked God to give me peace. Has anybody ever prayed that God would give you peace? I said, God, I prayed it like this past week. God, give me peace. I've been anxious and stressed out and disconnected, and I prayed, God, please just give me peace. Sometimes I've felt so depressed and lifeless and negative, and I've prayed, God, please give me joy. I need some joy in my life right now. Other times I've felt very selfish, closed off, and unloving, and I've prayed, God, please give me love. Please. And I don't think there's anything wrong with asking God to give me these things, but I'm wondering this week if I should focus less on asking God for specific gifts and blessings all the time, and instead focus my attention on growing closer to him. You know, our prayer life can often be like a Christmas wish list, where we just go down the list asking for God for all we need and want, when I'm wondering if Jesus might just want to be with us. He might just want to be with us. And really being united with God through a relationship with Jesus is really the only gift we really need in life. Through relationship with Jesus, we actually receive all that we need, and we are blessed through it. And I don't even know if we really need to even ask for these things, because Jesus is so eager to share his life with us. His desire to know us and be near to us is far greater than anything we could ever imagine. Sometimes I think I'm just going to God trying to convince God to help me out, And I don't think that's the way God is portrayed in our Christian tradition. God is a God of love that is constantly pursuing us and always wanting to be near to us. I noticed something else when I was studying these chapters in John, and I'm honestly not sure what the significance is, but it feels important, and I want to share it with you. In Galatians, Paul talks about the fruit of the Spirit. And the fruit of the Spirit are like the qualities that a person ought to have in their life that will be exhibited in their life if they are connected and walking with the Spirit. And many of you probably know these by heart, right? Paul says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And I'd never noticed that the first three fruits of the Spirit are the three final themes of Advent that we've been discussing: love and joy and peace. These are the first three fruits of the Spirit that Paul mentions. I'm so grateful that we chose to talk about receiving during this season of Advent. During Christmas, we always talk about the importance of giving, and I don't disagree with that. Giving is very important, and giving brings me a lot of joy in my life. But I'm not sure that we can give very much if we fail to understand our powerlessness and the essential need that we have to surrender and to let go and to receive what Jesus has to give us. In the Gospel of John, there's this repeated theme of God filling us up with love, and then we pour that love out for others. It's like a constant cycle that never stops. Jesus filling us up with love and us pouring it out on others. Jesus filling us up with love and us pouring that out on others. As I read about the fruit of the Spirit, I know I want these qualities. Like, I want to be patient. I want to be kind and gentle and good. I want to have self-control in my life. And my tendency is to try really hard to do all those things and to be all those things. I try really hard to be a person of peace, of joy, of love, yet all too often I am not. I am selfish. I'm dead inside. I'm stressed out and dysregulated. I am mean. I can be harsh, and it gets discouraging for me. Does it ever get discouraging for you when you're trying really hard to be the person you want to be and you fail at it? Like, it gets discouraging. I want to be different, but sometimes I can't seem to get there. And for me, I needed this reminder from Jesus today. And here's what I hear Jesus telling me. I want to give you my love, my joy, my peace, my patience, my kindness. I want to give you my goodness and my faithfulness and my gentleness and my self-control. And I invite you, John, to come and be with me and to be near me and to be united with me and share in these gifts with me. I hear Jesus inviting me to stop striving so much, to stop working so hard, to stop asking so much, and just be present with him and trust that Jesus will give me what I need. Some of my most meaningful moments of prayer these days are when I sit and I say nothing, and I'm just silent. I'm just silent. Last week, a little over a week ago on Black Friday, we broke shopping records in America. The numbers are startling and obscene. Over $10 billion were spent in one day in America. Between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., a 4-hour time block, Americans spent over $11 million every single minute. In this moment of fear and unrest and worry, in this anxious and uncertain moment in history, we Americans did what we do best. We shopped, we bought, we consumed. it is so fleeting and unsatisfying. Jesus offers something that will last. He offers a peace that endures. He does not give as the world gives. He doesn't really give gifts. Jesus gives himself. He gives himself. Advent means coming. And of course, we remember when Jesus first came to earth as a baby born in Bethlehem. And like we've talked about, we look forward to the day when Jesus will come again. But as I've been thinking about it, I wonder if we ought to recognize that Jesus is always moving towards us, that he's always coming. He's always available to us. He is always inviting us to come and share life with him, to know him, to grow closer to him, and to remain in him. It's always Advent. Jesus is always coming near to us. And it is through the close connection to Jesus that we receive peace and joy and love. You know, a lot of the spiritual masters that have lived throughout history, a lot of these folks, they didn't really ask God for much. They just focused on being present with Jesus. And their relationship with Jesus often seems so simple. It's like in the quiet of solitude and silence, they felt the love of Christ. In the silence and solitude of being in the wilderness in a cabin all by themselves, they felt joy because they were with Jesus and felt his joy. They felt that peace. You know, I remember when my friend Justin Rohr, he pastors a church here in town called Restoration. And he came here, and I invited him to come preach on a Sunday because his service was meeting in the afternoons, and he was able to come here on a Sunday morning. And I remember what he preached that Sunday. I don't remember a lot of sermons I hear, and you probably don't remember much of what I say, but something about this sermon really stuck with me. He wanted us to imagine kind of walking in the woods in the dark. I like to go hiking, and I actually like to be out in the dark, but it can be kind of scary and disorienting at times. Imagine you don't know the way, you don't have a light, you don't have a map, you don't have your phone to turn on your flashlight. You're just out there in the dark with no clue where the path will take you. And maybe you can't even really see the path in front of you. That's life sometimes, right? That's how it feels often. We're just out here trying to walk in the dark, trying to find our way, failing and falling and getting lost too many times to count. And Justin asked us to imagine that we aren't alone out there in the dark. He wanted us to imagine that we have Jesus, our guide, walking in front of us, leading us on this dark and difficult path. I want you to imagine that Jesus is glowing. He's glowing. He's full of light. And he is inviting us, hey, don't stay too far away. Come close. Stay right here beside me. He's inviting us to receive his light. And he says to us, trust me, I know the way. I know the way. We may not know the path in front of us. But what I believe is that we have a really good guide who does know the way. And he knows where we're going, and he knows how to navigate the complexities and the chaos and the violence and all the things that are existing in front of us. And he says, follow me. Stay close to me, and I will keep you safe. I will look out for you, and you won't be alone no matter what you experience. You know, I think we ought to maybe focus less on all the details and rules and debates and focus more right now in this season on staying really close to Jesus. Because he knows the way, and he's full of light, and he has peace and joy and love, even as things are falling apart. And he invites us, he says, hey, stay close to me. He wants you. When I'm walking sometimes in a new place, Kai, our son, will literally grab a hold of my leg, and he won't let go. You know, he's like, Daddy, I want to stay close. I don't know where we're at. You know, I'm scared, and I'm literally trying to walk, you know, and because he's got a hold of my leg. And I think Jesus is okay with us being that close. You know, just holding on tight because they're like, I can't do this on my own. He's like, don't worry, I got you. Inviting us to stay close. He's forever sharing of himself and all the blessing he has in him. And he's always eager for us to kind of feed off his vibe and his energy and his blessing. Do not be afraid. Remain in Jesus and love. That's a message that I hope we can continue to receive as we move through this season of Advent.